you have been involved in a really, really long time, going all the way back to, I'm assuming, the 80s, early 90s, playing music. Like, can
Oh,
we
for sure.
can we sort of take a step back? What was your personal history like when you decided to start playing music?
Well, my father was a musician and he played in a band and all that. So I guess he gave me the bug to start playing guitar. And, high school, started going through high school, met a lot of people in high school, started jamming with people. Um, and I can't say that I was good by any means. And we always had a hard time getting shows because we sucked. So we just started booking our own stuff, whether it would be at a gym or a VFW or somebody's backyard or whatever, and played everything from Van Halen covers horribly to Metallica and everything like that. So we started doing that, and it kept progressing. And the more that we played, and I'm going back to like 84, 85. So the more we played together, it started to materialize into something that was actually halfway decent. And then we started poking around at Saratoga Winners, QE2, things of that, and we started doing some shows there. And then it just jumped up another level, and meeting you know a lot of people in the scene, everybody from like the dudes in China White, Blacksmith. Then we became friends with like Suspended Animation, who was Jason Bittner's old band. The list goes on, and it just kept steamrolling and moving forward. And um, I had a band, Attica, and that was a band that started off in high school with you know bazillion different members, just playing covers to this, to that, to the other thing, and then started getting serious. And I always kept that name because it was pretty cool. So, um, and then it materialized into actually playing and actually going on the road a little bit, and started getting serious. And we had record contracts offered to us, and it was surreal, really, when you look back at it. I mean, back when we went on the road, I mean, you had to have a pocket full of change and a road map with a highlighter and a Sharpie to find where the clubs were. It was kids these days in bands will just never understand that, and it's amazing. And you had to know exactly where you were geographically, so you didn't end up somewhere, But um, so that was pretty much how I got started in music, and it was more of like the camaraderie that I met with everybody else that really pushed me forward as a musician, and just playing with other bands and hanging out. And next thing you know, we're opening for national acts. It's just like, oh, and then it's every kid's dream that I want to be there. I want to be there. And eventually, some people took that path, and I'm thankful that that's a path that I took. So
Where did you grow up in the capital region, and where did you
uh,
go to school?
I grew up in Troy, and then my parents moved to Colony, and then when I was 17, I basically moved back to Troy. I lived in Cohoes for a little bit, but definitely in the capital region. My early years, my preteens were I grew up in Troy. Then I was in Colony for my teenage years, and I moved back to Troy for probably 20 some odd years until I was in my 30s. And then when I opened up a bar in Troy, I decided to move out of Troy to help me stay out of trouble. So, but yeah, Troy and Colony is basically where I've been splitting my time with. So,
What was the childhood years in Troy? What was that like? Do you have any specific memories of that?
yeah, it was a lot of fighting. My parents, I remember getting bullied coming home from school, and my parents put their foot down, and it was just like no matter who your friends were, whether you're riding bikes, skateboarding, or playing stupid games, it always had every weekend there was a fight. You would fight your friends, and then the next week you'd be good with them, and all that. But I grew up in Berg. I went to St. Augustine's. Yeah, and and Bob Riley, who's one of my best friends, he will attest to this. But I had a babysitter that ended up being a murderer. She ended up murdering one of the kids that she used to babysit, and yeah, my parents thought it was probably a good time to get out of Troy at that time.
Oh
So
my, oh my God, when was that?
that was like 1978, maybe 79, because my parents moved out of Troy in 80 or 81. So that was my early years. And then after that, moved to Colony. And yeah, I my teenage years, I was a real asshole. I was a hard I don't know how my parents didn't kill me. I was terrible. I was a terrible kid. I destroyed everything. I vandalized everything. A lot of fighting, a lot of everything. You name it. Problem child. And my 20s were really no better. My 30s, I started figuring stuff out, and my 40s, I spent all my years of my 40s repairing all the damage, and now here we are in my 50s, just trying to not get in trouble anymore. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what how my life went.
You alluded to the purchase of the bar in Troy. That was the Hudson Duster, correct? With the big elevated stage. For those who don't know the Hudson Duster, with that, it's not quite a second story, but it was that big elevated stage above people's heads, up in the air,
It was a
which
pain
was
in the ass, but it was unique, and yeah, I had some good bands there, Gnostic Front, Murphy's Law, Harley's War, freaking yeah, I had a lot of good. Neglect played there. Yeah, it was definitely unique and different for a show, but
um, let's take a step back then to the area we were discussing earlier. You're talking about performing and starting to get a little bit of attention, some record label attention. This was for Attica, correct?
yeah.
So you mentioned Jason Bittner's band, and we talked to Jason, and this is part of why I wanted to talk to you. He had mentioned the '91 Slayer show at the RPI Fieldhouse, and that there was this battle of the bands to determine who the opener would be, and his band was part of the battle of the bands, and I believe this was at Saratoga Winners, correct?
Yeah.
What do you remember about that night? What do you remember, or even about the lead up? How did that opportunity come up to open for Slayer, and that it was the local opener would be a winner of a battle of the bands?
I'm not sure exactly how it came about, but I'm sure that Saratoga Winners they were pretty much one of the top dogs in the area for national acts and for music. So I'm sure that they had a line in with the promoter doing the Slayer show, and it was Slayer and Testament at RPI Fieldhouse. And I believe Creator was supposed to open that, and they dropped off for whatever reason. I
Oh,
may be wrong, but I remember hearing that as a rumor. So they decided to do a battle of the bands at Saratoga Winners. And I remember Stigmata played, Doomsday. I'm trying to think. You're testing my memory, and I'm lucky I can remember my own name, but I remember there was tickets involved to sell, and I remember we sold a shit ton of tickets for that. And hindsight is 2020, is like who really made out on that was Saratoga Winners, because every band sold an assload amount of tickets, and the place was sold out. It had to be
wow.
700 people to 1,000 maybe in that place from what I remember. And my memory is a little skewed from that far away, but I remember that it's it created a lot of rivalry between a couple of the bands, Jason Bittner and myself included. And we ended up winning. A lot of people say, oh, it was fixed and all this stuff. If it was fixed, I really didn't know about it. I don't know. I when you say Battle of the Bands, first thing that goes into everybody's head is somebody. It's all predetermined, and if it was not on our end. I remember, Bittner always said, he goes, "Oh, that was rigged, that was fixed," and blah blah blah. And you know what? And at that point in Attica's career, it was the beginning of Attica's career professionally, and it was the first wave of our lineup, or actually second wave of our lineup, and Stigmata was way better than us. The bands were way better. There was a lot of bands that were better than us, but we did perform very well that night. We I don't know if it was crowd participation. I don't know what the basis of winning that was, to tell you the truth, but we won. And we won, and we showed up to play with Slayer, and we got treated like such shit through that whole day. Not by the bands, well, a little bit by the bands, but the crew, the people doing the show were not happy. They were so again, behind the scenes, I don't know what happened, but I just know that we did not get a welcoming, welcome guy. We didn't get that. We basically got told what to do, where to put our stuff, how we did it, and we were kids, and we didn't know. We should have brought a sound guy. We didn't, and they didn't care about us. We sounded like shit. We had no monitors. We couldn't hear. We had this much space to play on. Not to mention, I think we made about $13 in change that was thrown at us, by everybody in the crowd. And, it was like, and then I got Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman throwing cold cuts at us backstage.
You're kidding me.
And Bittner's laughing because he's friends with Dave Lombardo at the time, and he's laughing at us, and whatever. It is what it is, and I don't regret it at all, because you know what, we got to do it. It was fun, and we did play in front of a couple thousand people. It was great. I mean, and you know what, when I see people that bring that up, 50% of them say it was so awesome. That 50% of the people like, oh, you guys got fucked. You guys sounded like shit. So I guess it's all perspective and how you perceive it. But I just remember it was, I didn't care. I played, and I was so happy. It was an accomplishment, and ever since then, I mean, Bittner and I we bust each other's balls over that still to this day. And we have fun with it. But now, 30 some odd years later, now the connections I've made in the music industry, it's like whenever Slayer comes, I'm backstage hanging out with them. Now it's just full circle, and same with Jason. And it's just, I remember when Jason called me asking me, he goes, "Hey, I think I might join Stigmata." I'm like, "Oh, that would be a move, bro." I said, "You got to do that." And Jason has always been driven, and he's always been trying to get to that next step. And then he used Stigmata as kind of a launch pad to, do everything from Crisis to Shadows Fall, Overkill, Flotsam and Jets. The guy's been all over the place, and it's like, again, it's like seeing people make it out of the 518 is just, it's amazing to me. You got Jack Daly, who was in Lenny Kravitz, or he still plays with Lenny Kravitz as far as I know. I mean, it's just it's awesome. It's like, seeing people make it out of here. It's rare. It's rare. Maria from In This Moment.
Yeah.
She was from here. It's like, there's so many people, and it's just, wow. It's really cool. And after all said and done, I mean, Brick by Brick had a rocky start as far as national attention because there was a situation that blackballed us for like 6 7 years because our old singer did something stupid. And when I decided to replace that singer and ultimately the whole lineup, we just went right up. So better late than never, I guess. And now we get to tour the world and the United States and everywhere else, and planning on doing Australia, Japan, all this stuff. So I don't know. I guess, like I said, better late than never. But that whole Battle of the Bands experience was you got to look at it from all angles because everybody's going to tell you a different story about it. Really, it's like, but from what I remember, it was we were blessed. We won, and it wasn't fixed as far as I knew. And was it really worth it for the personal accomplishment? Yes. For the exposure, no. Because when you look back at it, if you were an outsider seeing all these people just throwing shit at it. But at that time, whoever opened up for Slayer got shit thrown at them. I remember seeing Slayer and Testament in New York City, and somebody threw a beer bottle at the bass player from Testament. I'm just like, all right, well, it's not just us, you know. So,
Yeah, that's a universal experience, I think. Like
yeah.
openers for Slayer notoriously do not have a good time.
Yeah, Slayer fans are fucking brutal. They just Slayer. That's it.
Do you have any other memories of the Slayer show that night? Seeing like after you performed, did you have an opportunity to sort of soak in the atmosphere, or was it one of those hectic things like every band you have to get all your gear out and you got to load it out of the building?
It was pretty hectic. It was pretty hectic, and I remember hanging out afterwards, trying to meet the band. Like we met Dave Lombardo, nice guy. He actually hung out, talked with us. Tom Araya was really cool. He just wanted to smoke weed and just chill. Jeff Hanneman and Carrie were drinking. They were a little much, and but being a guitarist, those are the dudes that I really wanted to talk to. And Jeff Hanneman was hammered, and he took my poster and he took a pen and he just went like this. He just went on the for his autograph. He just went, "Here you go, kid." I was just like, "Fuck!" I still have the poster hanging up, you know. And Carrie wouldn't sign it, and yeah, that was it. But like I said, years later, meeting, knowing one of my boys was their guitar tech and everything, I got my autographs eventually,
Sure.
and I got my selfies and my accolades, but
and I was going to ask you that because like on your Facebook page, your the top of your
yeah.
Facebook page is you and Carrie.
And that was on their last tour before they called it quits. And I said, Carrie, I said, shit, I've been backstage hanging out, recognizing each other. I mean, I never talked his ear off. He never talked my ear off. But I said, can I get a selfie with you? I mean, for real. It's like he goes, sure. So we did one, and unfortunately, Jeff passed away before I was at that point where I could really talk to those guys. But Gary being in the band, such a nice guy, so personable, and just having the mutual connections just really helped with the relationship there. And I'm not sure when this is going to air, but Exodus is tonight at Empire, so I'm definitely going to be there to link up with Gary and chop it up a bit.
Nice. So Gary Holt, for those who are listening that don't know, Gary Holt, lead guitar player.
But he's such a underrated guitar player. Guy's phenomenal. It's like, if you look at that one video where it was Slayer, Venom, and Exodus back in the late 80s, just listening to his solos for live stuff is just, people don't give him his credit where it's due. I'll tell you that.
He has an instantaneously recognizable playing style, but also his tone is like I could pick it out. You could play me 10 guitar sounds in a row, and I would know exactly his sound. I don't know what it is, but it's so specific. I just always think of Shovelheaded Kill Machine, the album, That one for me is just like quintessential Exodus vibe.
I remember because I was a huge Exodus fan, and I remember when that the one album Impact is Imminent came out. The guitars on that were just so filthy. I was like, oh, how did he do that? They were just so saturated and dirty. Oh, it's just like, wow. He outdid himself with the tone on that one.
How many did you get a chance to see a lot of other shows at the Field House over the years? Did you go to a lot of other metal shows or other concerts?
I mean, I saw Iron Maiden there. I saw Anthrax there. I saw Public Enemy there. Yeah, they're just back in the late '80s, early '90s. That was our arena. That and Glens Falls. So yeah,
Jason said he caught Metallica at the Glens Falls Civic Center in '86 with Cliff Burton on bass. Would you happen to be at that show?
I wasn't. My mother wouldn't let me go. I was like I said, I was a shitty kid, and I did something stupid, and yeah. So I remember that. Yeah, they played with Ozzy, and I never, I had never seen Ozzy live either, or Black Sabbath. I kick myself every time, but no, I wasn't at that show. I wasn't. Bob Riley has a great story though. When Metallica played, there was a place called the Skyway back in the early '80s, and I believe it was out near Scotia. Metallica played there, but Bob was only like 13 or 14, and obviously couldn't go to the show. And his father went to the show and got all their autographs and everything for him. So yeah, that was. I mean, I don't know. Mustaine might have been even in the band still at that point, but that's a Bob Riley story. But he told me that I was like, that's badass. Your dad's awesome, just to go up there and get the autographs for all the band members for him.
Flash forward, I guess, to today. We talked a little bit about it throughout this conversation. You're now one of the top bookers for Empire Live, which was I shouldn't say was formerly, but originally was Northern Lights up in Clifton Park, correct? What's the characterization of that?
Well, Northern Lights transformed business ownership and then turned into Upstate Concert Hall. And then COVID happened and they were having issues with their lease up there. And the problem with Upstate Concert Hall was it was a 1,300 cap room. So I couldn't do a lot of shows up there because they'd look shitty because even 200 people in that room, it looks terrible. And with the overhead and all that, it didn't make sense. Nobody's going to make money. So, that's why, always look for the smaller venues. A lot of bands are always looking to play smaller venues. Perfect examples like Sick of It All. They would never play a 1,300 cap room. They will play a 350 cap room. They'd rather sell it out and have people on top of each other than scattered. So when that happened, we're talking during COVID, and I got a phone call from Dave Seward, who's one of the owners of Empire. He goes, "Hey, listen, we're looking at doing a venue. We're going to have a small room. Would you like to jump in on this and be a partner?" I said, 110%. No ifs, ands, or buts. And just the past 20 some odd years working with Dave, Ted, and all the other people that are involved with Empire, it was a no-brainer. And yeah, next thing you know, here we are. And now it took like a year to kind of get legs underneath us to figure out how to do it and make sense. And the cool thing is now I'm paid by the club, so I don't have to worry about wins or losses. I don't have to worry about percentages. Bands don't have to question, oh, how much is the promoter making if we're, all this stuff. So the books are always open. Everybody always, if anybody has any questions about money, there's settlement sheets for every show. It's like, boom, here's the numbers, point blank. Here's what you're getting paid. No bands have ever not gotten paid. So even if you sell 3 tickets, you'll still get $20 or whatever, but um yeah, so basically it came from Upstate Concert Hall, and we partnered up with Upstate Black and Blue, and it just makes so much sense. And my primary job is to book the small room, because low overhead and a higher percentage of profit to pay for the bottom line, just to go to the bottom line. And now a lot of my shows are starting to move upstairs, and it's like a little nerve wracking, because it's a lot of money to run upstairs professionally. And that's the one thing about this club, is they treat the smallest band as equal as the biggest band there. Everybody gets the same amount of attention. As long as it's worked out in advance, everything's there. And same with the local bands. All the local bands that I put on the upstairs shows, they get treated like they're part of that tour. And that makes me happy. I like seeing these bands smile, have a great show, and have that Slayer experience that I had. It was, and like I said, it's not so much about the personal or the accolades. It's about the personal accomplishment. It's just like, all right, you've played a lot of shows downstairs in the small room. Would you like to play with this band upstairs? Absolutely. It's like, and it's just really, I love doing it. And that's another reason why I decided to do the awards show.
Right,
So,
and that was what I was going to get to. To sort of one, just to mention very quickly, I appreciate talking about treating local bands with respect, just the same level of respect as like the national or the out of town bands, because I played in a lot of bands over the years, and I've definitely been treated like shit many times.
same here.
Yeah, right, right. The Slayer show is a
And
perfect
I am
example.
a national band.
Yeah. But two, it's nice to see that has sort of been a shift. And I've been out of the music scene for almost over 10 years now. But it's just nice to see that bands can just get some respect. And like you said, it's for a local band to open up for a national act, it's a big deal, and it's like something to add on their resume when they go for another show or tour somewhere else. It's like, well, we have opened up for these bands. We're not a nobody. But
And
jump
one
back.
thing these fans don't get too, it's an opportunity to network. It's like that's all I did the past 20 years is network. And you know what? I cultivated a lot of friendships in a lot of bigger bands, and we've gone out on the road because of it with them. But yeah, the treating the bands fairly, and like I said, the award show, it's I have the benefit of being on the club end and the band end. I play in a band, so I know how the band wants to be treated. I represent the club. I know how the club wants to be treated. So you just make it work, and it's not hard. It really isn't.
So you excuse me.
Yep.
Let's jump quick to the Extreme Music Awards. So this is year number 2 for the Extreme Music Awards. This is something, kind of explain to people what that is who haven't maybe heard of it.
So last year was the first year, and before that, Brick by Brick was nominated for a couple local awards shows, and I noticed that the genre was a little skewed and misrepresented, and bands that were winning these awards didn't necessarily represent the genre that they were up for in the award. So my brain works overtime all the time. It just ideas just pop into my head. So after going to a couple of them, I'm just like, you know what? Nobody's like really dove into the heavier genre. I mean, there's so many different categories within metal, for example. So you have death metal, you got black metal, you got power metal, you got stoner metal. It's like, so how can you say that a top band in a black metal category is better than the top band in the stoner metal category? You can't just say it's a metal band and you can't compete. I mean, it's apples and oranges. So that's what I first person that I contacted was Ralph, and I'm just like, I want to do my own award show. I said, because you know what? The 518 local heavy bands aren't getting recognized. And if anybody's going to do it, it should be me, Ralph. You know, we know the right people, and we've been doing this for almost 40 years. I mean, since like 85. It's like, Jesus. So, that being said, we just started running with it. And I'm just like, these are all the categories that I could think of off the top of my head. And then, so we're bouncing ideas off each other. And then we got Artie from Radio X, and we got Brendan from the 518 scene involved, along with Fuzz from that Fuzzing Rock show. I said, let's all get some ideas going. And we did the first one, and I said, what's going to make our award show better than the other award shows? Let's have an actual touring popular metal band present the award. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, I've got connections. I've been on the road. I could get a hold of some people. So we did that. And last year we flew by the seat of our pants. We didn't really know what the hell we were doing. But you know what? Not one mistake was made. And I remember at 5:00 before doors were open, I was like, I need to get some air. I'm like, I was just running back and forth literally for 8 hours. Well, I got to take a breather. And I went outside just to catch some cold air. I looked down, and the line was around the block. I was like, wow. Like, we did it. And then Jason Bittner came in and took over the whole All-Star Jam portion. And him and Nick Stamos, it was flawless. It was just flawless. You had members of Overkill jamming with Brick by Brick and Soulfly, and members of Hatebreed playing with. It was crazy. It was just insane, just jamming, and everybody had such a goddamn good time. Everybody was smiling, and I was just like, this is what I want for this local scene. It's like, and the thing was, since it was our first inaugural event, I remember I grabbed the microphone, and there had to be 600-700 people out there. And I said, look at all you guys here to support an event that supports all the local musicians. I go, so think of it this way. If you all came to each and all your other shows, you would be able to play upstairs every single time instead of downstairs. It's just, that's all you need is just support. So it was the vibe was so good. It was amazing, to say the least. And now we're on our second year. We raised the bar. We got some top-notch celebrities coming in. We got Gary Holt. Gary Holt's going to be there. Dave Ellefson from Megadeth. Guys from Shadows Fall. John, who from Shadows Fall also plays in Anthrax. You got Flotsam and Jetsam guys going to be there. Brand New Sin. It's just the All-Star Jam portion, the list that Bittner put together. It's like, it's just all cool tunes, like stuff that you would never think. Just everybody getting together and jamming. It's like, I can't wait to see Gary Holt play a Thin Lizzy song. It's like shit like that. It's just amazing. And I think I'm playing Hard Times by the Cro-Mags with Matt from Hatebreed, and so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be such a blast. And like I said, it's just, people have reached out to me, emailed me. They're like, you got to make this bigger. And I'm like, well, I'm worried about my scene first and foremost. Making it bigger, I don't know how. I mean, if it was to go bigger, then I would need some serious financial backing, because in order to make it bigger, you're gonna have to move it to like New York City or Nashville or LA, and it's going to be ridiculous with the overhead. So I don't know. Keep it here for now, and if any of you investors out there want to help out, then we'll talk. But yeah, so the award show is just it's awesome, and just seeing these bands get their accolades is worth every penny of it.
Where can people find out more information about the Extreme Music Awards?
Well, we got an official website, www.extrememusicawards.com. That is like the direct site. It's got the nominee ballot that you can vote, so anybody can vote. You can vote. There's a limited. I think you can only vote like once every other week to keep it kind of fair. And it's got everything from last year's galleries, videos, and hi, pup, my dog. And she's like, pay attention to me. Yeah, so that's like the direct spot right there. Or you can just reach out to me if you have any questions, just on Facebook or whatever. Yeah, I'm so excited for this year's thing. It's just we tried to outdo ourselves. I think we did it.
Awesome. Anything else you want to land on? I'm kind of good. I think I hit all my questions.
No, I don't know. Brick by Brick still going strong. Brick by Brick is not eligible for any awards. That way,
the fix is not in, right?
Big. I learned that from Jason Bittner. I can't have. How am I going to present myself with an award without looking like an asshole? So, but we're in the studio right now. We're recording a new record. It's going to be dropping in the spring. We got Joey Z from Life of Agony producing it. Things are going very well with it. So keep an eye out for that this spring. The award show also has a pre-party, and on the pre-party is a band called Concrete. It's their release party. So it's going to be, all right, let me see if I can remember the flyer. It's going to be Smoke AD, who has members of Madball, Hatebreed, and Crown of Thorns in it. Us, Brick by Brick. We got Concrete doing their record release party. Against the Rain's on it. Hope for Now is on it. Faded Line, who's a great band out of Western Mass. There's a couple more bands on there, and I apologize for not remembering, but I got 900 bands in my head and 600 shows to put them on. And then we're doing the event on Saturday, and then on Sunday we have an after party with Skin Lab and Dead by Wednesday. Out of my head, bunch of good bands on that one too. And we're going to do for the Sunday show, it's going to be free admission with your ticket stub or whatever from either show from the previous 2 days.
Just really quick, because I don't think we hit it. The Extreme Music Awards is being held at Empire Live.
Empire, the Extreme Music Awards pre-party is at Empire Underground, and then Empire Live will be, and that's going to be January 10th. Then January 11th is the actual event upstairs at Empire Live, and then the after party will be January 12th downstairs at Empire Underground. So again, and there's tickets available at if you just go to Empire Live website, you can buy tickets right online. Some of the bands have tickets for the pre-party and after party if you want to hit the openers up for those. But the only way to get the tickets for the main event is through Ticketmaster upstairs, which kind of sucks because they're a necessary evil, unfortunately.
Anything else you want to hit before we wrap?
I think we hit everything, and like I said, if anybody has inside information on that Battle of the Bands, let me know. But I'll tell you, it wasn't fixed.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was fun.